All right, let's continue chugging along. Now it's time to talk about hydrogen as an alternative energy source, both advantages and disadvantages of it. So hydrogen, most common element on the planet, more importantly, most common element in the universe. So on the planet, it's not a fair game, but 98%, 99% of all matter in the universe is hydrogen. The simplest of those, and then can we utilize it? Well, first of all, it's not in its own form on the planet Earth. And so even though it's the most abundant element in stars and in galaxies and all that kind of stuff, it's locked up in water molecules or organic compounds here on Earth. And so we have to extract it from that. And so we use what they call electrolysis to basically remove it. And the problem with that is it takes quite a bit of energy and money to go ahead and do the electrolysis. And so in the end, you have a net energy gain that's very low. And so it's not that great, especially if you're going to use fossil fuels for it. Because in addition to not having a great energy yield, you also are going to produce a lot of CO2 emissions, which isn't helping environmentally as well. But there have been energy experts that think hydrogen is the best long-term replacement for oil. And so we'll see if that comes true or not. So the best way to utilize hydrogen is, most people argue, is through fuel cells. So fuel cells basically are taking hydrogen and they're combining it with oxygen, and that makes electricity. And that's what this picture is showing here right for you. Okay? When they do that, there's no CO2 being produced. The only thing that gets produced when you take CO2 and put it together with oxygen is water. So the only thing you produce is water vapor. So from that perspective, it's very clean. These are all pictures of hydrogen fuel cell cars that have been developed. And so it's still a process that's ongoing to determine how good of car we can build with it. The biggest problem is the potential storage tank, which is this big thing, is compressed hydrogen gas. Those can go boom, boom, so you got to be careful with that part of it. And so what are the advantages and disadvantages? Let's run through them really fast. So advantages, good things about it. It can be produced from water. It has a low environmental impact. It is renewable as long as we have the sources available. It doesn't produce any CO2. It's a good substitute for oil because it got a lot of bang for its buck energy-wise. It's competitive price-wise across the country. It's easy for us to store that electricity once it's made. It's much safer than gasoline and natural gas. It's not toxic, and the fuel cells themselves are decently high efficient, 45 to 65%, which isn't great, but it's a lot better than, say, a gasoline engine, which is only like 5% efficient, or 10% efficient at best. Disadvantages: you can't find hydrogen gas in nature on its own. You use a lot of energy to produce the fuel. So in some cases, you got to be careful of the net energy gain, where it takes you more energy to make the hydrogen than you get out of it. You can have CO2 emissions if you get it from an oil environment. The environmental cost isn't figured in the marketplace. Don't we put that on everything? Put that on the AP exam. It's non-renewable if it's generated from the wrong sources. It has a high cost as of right now that we're trying to get to be lower. It's going to take a long time to eventually phase it in because we have to change the infrastructure of how things are delivered. We haven't had very long driving ranges yet, so we have to develop better technology so we can go further. It's kind of an electric car in that respect. There's no fuel distribution system. There's no hydrogen gas pumps to pull up to, so that's a bit of a problem. And if you have too much hydrogen gas that gets out into the environment, it can mess with the ozone layer. So leaks are a bit of a problem with it as well.